Hi. Let me put this down for a while here. I had to go to the state store. And because I went to the state store, as I always do, I observed and I wrote a piece called 10 Minutes at the State Store. And with your indulgence and salute, a little bit of wine, I will read it for you. They say things happen in threes. They say everything happens for a reason. My reason for going to our local state store was to buy some white wine for cooking. Yes, some white wine. I wouldn't know the difference between a Riesling and a Grigio. But I have just enough wine snobbery never to buy it in a box or screw top bottle. Three things did happen at the state store. The reason? Walking into the store, I passed a tall, rather professorial looking gentleman in a fashionable coat, wearing one of those safari hats worn frequently by Eastern liberals. Thus he qualified as, and became to me, the professor. He was pacing, as if waiting for someone. He was from a common brown paper bag taking slugs of wine, a red I could see, but of course I couldn't identify. Standing at the section marked white wines, I was scanning the shelves, looking for the cheapest yet corked bottle, when a woman I couldn't quite remember rushed up to me, identifying herself as, I forget her name now. Anyway, she was the costume lady on a little theater play I was in 3 years ago. I only vaguely remembered her because my costume in the play was my own pants, shirt, and sweater. She apologized for not being very social back then and couldn't wait to tell me that her husband, who had been terminal at the time, passed, and she was ready to start living again. She reminded me that our former director had asked her to do costumes for next year's Christmas play, Miracle on 34th Street, and I should try out for it. The director has asked me to be in the play as Macy's imperious straight-laced store manager. Shh, don't tell her. Gushing how nice it was to see me again, this woman I hardly knew patted my shoulder and flitted off from wherever it was she came for whatever reason she came. An Amish kid was in line ahead of me at the checkout. His hopes to buy a bottle of apricot brandy and some schnapps were dashed when the clerk discovered that his ID and he apparently didn't match. I felt bad for the poor kid, enjoying his last years in the English world, able to drink and screw with abandon before being sentenced to life as his own plow, married to his third cousin. He'd have to leave the store, go back empty handed and horny to tell the girl he was going to get drunk on sweet and tasty booze to numb resistance to her sinful lust that he came up empty, and so would she. An interesting little drama, seen and imagined. The professor was still outside, still pacing, still waiting, still sipping. Back in my car, and even now, a few days later, I'm trying to make sense of him, of the lady who knew me, and why I thought I should know her, or the Amish kid who couldn't buy booze. All three of them came to me, or I to them, in about 10 minutes. Was there a link between them? Was the professor getting his courage up, waiting to be the new man in the life of the theatrical seamstress, and the Amish kid buying booze for the prof to give to the seamstress? Sweet, tasty booze to help ease her guilt at being unfaithful to her dead husband as she screwed the professor? Was there a connection between these things that happened in threes? What meaning did they have? Everything does, doesn't it? What meaning could I take from the 10 minutes I spent at the state store, from these three incidents, unrelated, but feeling revelatory to me? I've always observed, finding meaning in common occurrences, everyday life stuff, writing about them, turning them inside out, upside down to make what I hope is interesting reading. It's in my blood and maybe not necessarily a good thing. My uncle, my mother's brother, began by playing solitaire, finding links and meanings in the cards as he played them that we'd acknowledge to humor him. I remember the state hospital attendants chasing him around the dining room table before taking him away. I'm not disturbed in any sense of the word by what I witnessed at the state store. I know they were random incidents. They all just happened to occur and be witnessed by me in a few short minutes. Funny how you can go days, weeks, months, sometimes without seeing anything out of the ordinary. Then you see three in a row. Why is it always three? My rational me says coincidence. But today I drove over to the state store just to see if anything was going on. If you like this piece, I invite you to uh, buy my book, purchase my book. I'm just lucky to own my own car. It's on Amazon Books. This piece isn't in it, but this is indicative of the kind of stuff that I do. So I hope you will give the book a listen, give the book a read, I should say. You got to pardon me. I've been hitting the bottle here. Thank you so much. Take care.